let's continue with IQ. See, take a look here. The most popular IQ test, and there are two. Okay, there are two. One is what the Stanford Binet from Stanford University, developed by Louis Terman, 1916. Of course, here he borrowed the test from Binet, a Frenchman. In 1905, Binet and Simon, his graduate student, created the first Binet test. And Louis Terman borrowed the test, and he created, added a lot of items, and then he also created the American one, the American norm. Okay, so it is very popular even at this time, okay? And then the Wechsler test, an intelligence scale. So David Wechsler, starting 1939, of course, here, both tests have been updated many times, okay? See, the Wechsler basically has three very popular tests, and of course there are more, okay? There are more. Wechsler has more. The Wechsler adult intelligence scale, and then for children, and then for preschool and primary scale, 4 to 6.5, 6 to 16. So you see at at that time here, Wechsler worked together with Pearson and the psychometricians, and he realized that no, young children need some other test items, and adults' intelligence items should be different from children's. You see here, from preschool 4 to 6.5, so that is to say, remember Piaget sensory motor is from 0 to 2, and then intuitive state pre-operational is from 2 to 7. Concrete operational is concrete up to 7-11, remember? And then from 12 onward, that's formal operation. So here we are basically testing children at the pre-operational stage, full of fantasies, okay, and like bathroom languages, that type of thing, okay, and they are very creative, okay, at this age, or within this age range, 6 to 16. 6, remember 7-11. So a lot of the students here, they're at the concrete operational stage. So those who are older, 12 and above, in general, okay, they embark upon formal operational stage. But here, adults, okay, mostly at the formal operational level. Of course, other than these two, there are also popular group tests, and lots of like the Otis Lennon quick score, and then you have graphic, just non-language IQ test, like the progressive matrix, and also Cattell's culture fair IQ test. A lot of IQ tests are non-verbal, only pictures, okay? Because whenever we have verbal items, we are testing there's a strong component of culture. This has been proven, but that's beyond the scope of this course, okay? All right, and then IQ scores for Black, white, and Asian. Remember, I mentioned Arthur Jensen's conclusions affecting scholars or academics academic views on IQ scores. And then there is also a political side of it, but then we'll come to that, okay? Now, take a look here. I'm not using stat, but I want you to realize realize the differences among of different IQ scores. Okay, this is IQ, and let's say this here. Now, using these most popular IQ tests, and also some other IQ tests, they are known, okay, to have the same mean and standard deviation as these two, but I'm not talking about stat. Here, using a huge amount of data, we end up with a population of IQ scores, and we know that here, okay, in the Western world, this is 100. This is the mean IQ, the average IQ score, okay, in the Western world, okay? Now, say here you have 50% of the score here, 50% of the score here. If your IQ is 100, let's say your IQ score is better than 50% of all the people taking the same test. Okay, now let's take a look here. What is this? Yeah, 85. 85. So here average, okay, the average here is for what? For white folks. This one here, this is for what? The average Black people, okay, in the US, basically, and then what? And then you have what? Say above 100. So it depends on say these Asian. It could go up to here, okay? Say 107 to 110. Okay, this is let's say 103 to 105. All right. So Asian means what? Japanese, Koreans, Indians, Chinese. Okay. Now, so most of the time, you read books on IQ testing. They seldom mention this, okay, or they just mention it in passing. But if you read some serious book, they do mention this here, okay? And they also explain why, but it is beyond the scope of this course here. I think I will discuss this a little bit when we come to the intelligence related to positive psychology, but then I have already discussed a lot here, and you will see a little bit later on. Now, but then take a look at this here, 85. When an IQ score of 85 means what? This score is better than only 16% of the people taking the same test. Okay, versus the average for white, 50%, if it is 100. If it is say 107, 107 is a half standard deviation. It is something like something close to 70%, okay? So approximately, I don't want to calculate this here, okay? Now, but then you have to remember here is that labeling based on IQ scores, this is bad, okay? Really bad, okay? Now, at IQ 85, this is in the bad old times, about 20 years ago, I think 30 years ago, this is called the onset of what? The onset of what? Of the problem. This is mental retardation. This is what? Moderate mental retardation. Then you have 50. You have what? This is what? This is more serious than 25, profound mental retardation. Now, take a look at this here. Therefore, one, and you probably understand the discrimination against against colored people, black people in the United States, okay, in the Western world, okay, is what a strong component of that, a strong reason is due to IQ score. Okay, so let's take a look at what here. Well, what's wrong with this? That here, a label, once it is attached, it is almost like forever. Okay, imagine what a young black boy in a school that would IQ lower than 85. Okay, so then what? The boy will be designated as mentally retarded. So this is bad, is that right? This is bad because what? Here we do not we just assign a negative label. Okay, but then what? Of course, at 85, the person could do a lot of other things. Okay, a lot of other things, and I will mention later when we come to the full spectrum of intelligence. I will mention what's wrong with this here. Okay, all right. Now take a look at the science and politics of IQ, and you realize that because of this thing here, the labeling, and then because black in general, they have significantly lower. 85 is statistically significantly below 100. Okay, all right. So then let's take a look at this here. 1909, first publication on IQ up to 1975, Cyril Burt. Okay, his publications, all of them were based on his research using monozygotic twins. That means twins are with two sperms, one egg. Okay, they are they share the same DNA. Okay, so his subjects were all monozygotic twins, either reared together or reared apart. Okay, so according to his line of research, he published a lot of papers. He concluded that IQ, intelligence, is totally due to heredity. That means if the father is a horse thief, the son will be a horse thief. If the father is a genius, the daughter will be genius. That type of thing, that kind of thinking. That's his conclusion, Cyril Burt. And because of his prominence in IQ research, the queen, okay, the queen knighted him. Okay, he has a title. Well, all right. So because of this, so that you see a lot of the British kind of they like this kind of research, okay, and that's that formed the foundation of very strong discrimination in the academic world as well as in the real world here against black. Okay, and of course, it is also because of the fact the color of the skin as well as blacks, they came to America as slaves. Okay, so you have to understand this. Okay, so therefore, what we will have when we study positive psychology, we will have to pay attention. We will have to pay attention to this. Right? It is important. Now, so Cyril Burt published a lot of papers, and he concluded that IQ is based on based on heredity and also the color of the skin. So it is a very strong racial component he advocated. And Leon Cameron, Chicago, University of Chicago, in 1977, he wrote the book. He wrote the book called the what? The Politic. What's the name of the book? The what? The Science and Politics of IQ, 1977. Okay, based on his thesis. Okay, he read all of Cyril Burt's articles or Burt's papers, and then he observed one thing, that how come what in several papers the correlation between what two groups, say the correlation between group 1 and group 2, let's say okay, say 0.3 to 1, and then the correlation between another group 3 and 4 in a different publications also 0.3 to 1, and then it appears several times. Now, why is that so significant? Let's say this, the accuracy at the 1/10, this 1/100, this 1/1000. Okay, here completely different samples. It is what, from a probability point of view, it is almost impossible to have something like this. Impossible. So Leon Kamin was very skeptical, and he obtained a grant, and I believe it's 1972 to 75. I may be wrong in that, okay? Peter Chow's getting old, I can remember a lot of those dates. He went to England, and then he wanted to track down Burt's subjects, and also all those places that he mentioned. Okay, then he was taken aback. None. He spent a long time there, and he could find not a single subject. Okay? Monopsychotic twins should be able to, if they existed, Leon Kamin should be able to find, but not one, not even one research associate. So he was very skeptical. So after a long search, he wrote his thesis on IQ testing, and he published this book. And then because of this book here, the world realized that Burt, he was fabricated. He created all those data himself. Okay, he had no subjects, no monopsychotic twin. Okay, so he faked all the results. Okay, all the results, and the Queen was kind of fooled by him. So in the IQ testing literature, this is called the Burt affair. Okay, the Burt affair. There are a lot of affairs in psychology. So for those of you who have taken developmental psychology, I don't know if your professor did mention in developmental psychology there is the famous Bower affair, BOWER, Bower affair. Okay? And this, I read his book, and was fascinated. But then he also liked Burt faked all the data. Okay? So in IQ testing, this is called the Burt affair. So then, after the publication of this book here, people began to realize that, oh my goodness, maybe we should reevaluate what the data, okay, in IQ testing. Now, back in 1972, okay, Robert Williams in University of Washington, he also he knew, okay, after studying a lot of IQ tests, okay, there was, and still now we know that there is a very strong cultural component in a lot of verbal IQ tests. And what Cattell was the famous one. He created what he called the culture-free IQ test. But then after he published his data, published a lot of papers, then academics studied it and said, no. There is still a strong component of culture, despite the fact that they are all non-language IQ testing, right? I can give you those, okay? But then take my measurement course, I will show you. Interesting. Now, so even if we only use diagrams, use pictures, photos, there is still a strong cultural component. Now, then Robert Williams said, well, all the IQ tests at that time were created by white folks, okay, based on white culture. And that's why Black people have such a low IQ, 85, because Black people, they even up to this point, they have their own culture. How can you expect them to do as well? Say as well as the white folk at 100. So Robert Williams created a Black IQ test based on Black culture. Okay? It is called the Black Intelligence Test for Cultural Homogeneity. It's famous, called BITCH, the BITCH test. Check it out. It is called the BITCH-100. Okay? BITCH 100. Then according to his paper, most white folk will flunk the test. And then most black people will pass the test. Say black will be 100, okay? White will be 85, something like this. Okay? So he has shown the world that an IQ test created by black people will have this kind of result. So this is the famous test. Just check it out, okay? Called the BITCH 100. All right, so interesting, right? Interesting. So you will have to evaluate any claims by any researcher based on IQ test scores, right? Okay. The full spectrum intelligence test. Now, so far we have seen that psychologists cannot agree on the real nature of intelligence, right? There are as many definitions of IQ as there are psychologists studying it. But then but we are still using it. Why? Well, the reason there are two reasons. Whenever a whole battery of cognitive tests is given, I mentioned that, to a sample of people, a set of positively correlated scores, results. Okay, so this phenomenon of correlation among separate tasks is one of the most pervasive and stable findings of psychology that virtually forces attention, the attention to the questions of a general intelligence, like Spearman's G factor. Okay, so a general factor of IQ we know now is the best predictor of further general academic performance. Okay, it is primarily for this reason that most psychologists are still inclined to use tests of general intelligence. So IQ test scores are good predictors of grade point average. Okay? And so because of this here, you see that a lot of standardized tests, like what I mentioned, the GRE, it is what? It is very much like what? IQ test. Okay? All right. Now, since IQ tests do not all measure the same thing, look at what? Look at Thurstone, seven intelligence, and then of course Howard Gardner, 8 to 9 different intelligences. Okay, the user must be completely aware of the author's definition of IQ when selecting and interpreting an IQ test. It is important because otherwise, this will be meaningless. Okay. Now, so IQ is a complex blend of many types of mental abilities. Okay, mental abilities. Although there are different theories about what is exactly that goes into the tapestry of IQ. Okay, the 6 views we have just examined share descriptive strengths. So take a look here. We have do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, 6. Okay, 6 views. All right. So let's go back to the full spectrum IQ test here. So all right. So here, so each view recognizes that a capacity for abstract thinking is related to IQ, although this capacity has various names, such as abstract thinking, where is that? Inductive reasoning, the logical, mathematical, and then Sternberg's combinatorial intelligence. Okay? They are all all related to abstract thinking. And then 3 of the 6 views recognize a type of social intelligence. Look at Thorndike, called social intelligence. Gardner, where is it? Interpersonal, between people. Sternberg, contextual intelligence. Remember the boy working in the produce section of the grocery store? That's an interesting example. Now, 4 of the 6 positions share the idea that IQ also consists of the ability to see possibilities, where at first glance none are apparent. So look at Sternberg. Sternberg's experiential intelligence. Okay, to see possibilities, and you could fit 2 lenses, one on top of the other, to create a bifocal. Guilford's divergent thinking. Okay, Guilford. Well, see here. Okay, Guilford's divergent thinking. I don't dwell too much on this here, okay, because Guilford's model is pretty complicated. Thurstone's inductive reasoning, what is that? Here, inductive reasoning. Thorndike's abstract thinking. Okay, so to see possibilities, that you manipulate ideas here, you generate hypothesis, like Piaget's formal operation. So aspects of capacity to think concretely are also included in the consideration of what constitutes intelligent behavior, like Spearman's X factor. Okay, like how to play piano, that's concrete operational. How to fiddle, how to play basketball, that type of thing, concrete operational. Now, Thorndike's concrete thinking here, concrete thinking, Guilford's convergent. Well, don't worry about that. What Guilford did make a big case about divergent convergent thinking. Sternberg's contextual intelligence. Is what to think concretely given the reality. Also, they're also implicit in Thurstone's space versus space. Space. You see you see the chalk. Do you have enough space to do that? And then the God was spatial and bodily kinesthetic. Now, so take a look at what the full spectrum of IQ test. What is it here? We only here. The most we see is here. 7 intelligence, now 8 and 9 intelligences. This is pretty pretty convincing. Is that right? But Sternberg. Now, let's take a look at at this here. This is the only IQ test that measures musical ability. This is the only IQ test here to measure how much we know about ourselves. Is that right? Now, so that means we are actually missing a lot of other components of IQ. Okay, what about the ability to dance really well? Right? There are a lot of this here. Okay, what about the ability to do some other things that may be crazy, but then it is So let me give you an example. For now, we see that Black people, they dance really well, and they are the music talents are strong. You must know that like hip hop, rap and all that, they originated from Black folks. In the winter time, they have a barrel, then they put things in there, light up a bonfire, and they surround it to get warmth. Okay, to get warmth, and at the same time, they create music. So you see, even dancing. Okay, now this is only one component of intelligence. So intelligence here, it occupies a very, very wide spectrum. It includes most of the things we do. So we are only measuring this here. And I have just given you an example, is that here it does not measure our ability to dance, our ability to do a lot of other things. Okay, so that means our definition of IQ, of intelligence, pretty narrow. So Peter Chow has the following observation, is that everyone on earth, everyone, we are born with equal potential. Is that if someone spends a lot of time in playing piano, this one will be excellent in playing piano, but then this one may not be so good in other aspects. Maybe this someone that cannot play guitar or cannot do math, that type of thing, right? So it is I'll give you another very good example. Okay, language. Let's say languages. Okay, we know that in discussing Piaget's intellectual development, we know that once we have confidence in walking, the next stage is explosion in language acquisition. We pick up language, the language just like this. Now, if from 2 years old to 5 years old, we expose a child consistently to 10 languages, the child will pick up those 10 languages without any difficulty and then with ease, because the child at that time highly motivated to what to pick up languages. Okay, for example, now you 20 something, I believe. Okay, if you want to pick up another language, it's pretty difficult. Okay, is that right? Pretty difficult. Now, for say you are English speaking or French, you're bilingual. Okay, you're bilingual. It will be easy for you to pick up, say, Spanish, pick up German, because what they are all what alphabetical languages. You could pick up those a lot easier than what say Chinese. Okay, because what the Chinese language is the only semantic language on earth that say you see the character, you see the meaning. But then in alphabetical languages, you can't. Just spelling, you see the word is spelled like this here. Okay, say say INTELLIGENCE, intelligence. You see the word and you see the spelling. You don't know. You don't see the meaning, right? So it is a completely different kind of language. So on Earth, there are basically two distinct type of languages: semantic and alphabetic language. Okay, semantic and alphabetic languages. For alphabetic language speakers to learn the semantic, it is very difficult. And same for a semantic language speaker to learn alphabetic is very difficult. Peter Chow went through this. I came to Canada without the ability to speak English. I had to pick it up bit by bit. Okay, and it is crazy, and I had to I also had to adjust to the culture. Okay, so sometimes people will laugh at me, but let me relate to you how stupid Peter was. Okay, it is a culture, because of culture. I was when I came to Canada, okay, a long time ago, longer than you have left. Okay, I saw people, of course, young people at my age, first year university. They lunchtime, they produce a sausage, and then they just do this. Okay, I think, wow, that's cool, meat. So I bought myself a similar sausage, and of course I take away the plastic wrapping, and I did that. I said, holy cow, how come Canadian sausage so difficult to chew? So difficult. How come? And then without realizing that, I didn't know that I was so stupid. I had to unwrap those what do you call wrapping the sausage? The paper, that right? those parchment or paper, wax paper. And then it took me some time. After a couple of sausages, right? After a couple of sausages, then I began to realize, holy cow, Peter Chow, you were so stupid. Okay, now let me tell you another good cultural adventure. Okay, Peter Chow, second year university, I worked for Howard Johnson's as a waiter down in Toronto. I was at University of Toronto. At the Yonge and Dundas. Those of you who have been to Toronto, you realize, of course, now it's called the Dundas Square. Okay, I worked in Howard Johnson's as a waiter for 2 years. Okay, as a full-time waiter in the summer, at the part-time when I was doing my second year, third year. So I didn't know. Okay, say mustard. I just know it is called mustard. And then when a customer order, I need some hot mustard. I said, hot mustard. Okay, good. So I took the jar of mustard, okay, and I used a spoon, put something onto a small dish, and I shove it into the microwave and I heat it up. And then I brought it to the guy. Okay, the guy looked at me because of the smoke coming out of the mustard. I thought it was hot mustard. The guy looked at me, okay, and looked at hot mustard. I didn't even realize that how stupid I was. And then I asked the guy, "What? You want it hotter? I could put it back in the microwave." You see, it's that culture, is that right? Of course, here, if that item appears in the IQ test, I'll be what? I will receive a score indicating I'm a moron. Is that right? You see what I mean? So you be very careful whenever you see say test scores to evaluate how intelligent a person is, that type of thing. All right. So if everyone is born with the same potential, if you spend time to concentrate on one or two things, you will be an expert in those two areas. But then you may be a moron in some other areas. Is that right? All right. So we are all born equal. Okay. Of course, you may ask, Peter, what about those poor fellow born with certain disease and all that? Well, that's very unfortunate. Okay, that's very unfortunate. Of course, there are reasons behind that, but let's not be occupied with that discussion. Okay, let us not do that. Okay, it will be very hot debate. Okay, not hot mustard. Hot debate. Anyway, so hence we can see that none of these mental abilities are discrete components. They are all related in overlapping ways, some more than others. Is that right? They are more or less they overlap with one another. There is not something called completely independent, not as Guilford first thought. Okay. Now, new research and fresh thinking about the nature of cognitive ability are allowing us to see that IQ has many aspects. Okay, it is now valid to consider a broader view of intelligence, just like Howard Gardner, like Louis Thurston, and even Robert Sternberg, right? So it is not only the capacity for abstract thinking, as you see in several views here, okay, but also the ability to learn from experience, to develop common sense, contextual intelligence, and the capacity to know oneself and to relate to others, interpersonal intelligence, the facility for logical thinking, the skill involved in language usage, the aptitude for creative output here, okay, for creative output, and the capacity for concrete thinking. Some students might not be good at math. I know that because I teach statistics, okay? But they might be skilled in reading, writing, or even in athletics, where they can use their physical intelligence, bodily kinesthetic. Okay, other students might do rather poorly in activities involving physical abilities. Okay, but well in math or subjects that require verbal fluency. See, now in terms of languages, if you are bilingual, your IQ in general, okay, bilinguals have significantly higher IQ than their unilingual counterparts. Okay, so language is important. Okay, so learn more. Okay? And there are, it appears, many different ways to be intelligent. Some students express their intellectual strength in the classroom, some reflect it in their social and interpersonal skills. Okay, while still others show the greatest intelligence in their abilities to work with their hands, to play musical instrument, perhaps to compete in athletics. Okay, now, however, there are many students and adults who do not have a single outstanding ability, but who are moderately endowed in many different areas. You see the potential. Okay, we are all equal. Okay? Thus, we must ask, how can we shift the way we conceive of intelligence? And Howard Gardner may have come closest when he suggested that it is not how smart one is, but how one is smart. See, this is clever, is that right? So this statement appears to flip the notion of intelligence from a construct of exclusion to one of inclusion. Okay, why can we not decide how each person can benefit society rather than asking if they can benefit society at all? So this is good, is that right? This concept. So Howard Gardner is right, okay? And there are many expressions of intelligent behavior, because students are slow learners, or slow in math or reading, does not necessarily mean that they are unintelligent. It could mean that they have not had as many opportunities for learning in those areas, or that they really do have aptitude, deficit in math and or reading, and as a consequence have developed other outlets for their intellectual potential. Okay? So intelligence is far more than the ability to pass a test, okay, or to score high in the IQ test. Okay? The ultimate test of intelligence is one's ability to succeed in life. And we need only look around us to see that there are many ways to accomplish that type of success. Okay, so we have unintelligent people who are very successful in life. Okay, all right. So I have read enough to believe that we are all born with equal amount of intelligence, as I have just mentioned. If we use it, we get it. So you dwell in and you'll be able to achieve it, okay? However, we must come to the awareness that we have that amount, okay? And that whether we can tap into it depends on whether we are willing to do it, or whether our environment allows us to do just that. So there is a strong environmental factor, all right? Of course, heredity plays a role. And without environment, even though you have great potentials, without the environment, the potential will not come to fruition. Okay? You may not realize it. All right. So if we just sit there drinking beer, I love it, all day long, we are not likely to experience growth, as neural connections have not been activated. You need to think, you need to do it, so that the synapse will be You see it then right here. You have the synapse here, and you have neural connection, and then you have the cognitive connection. Okay, just like remember I mentioned a cognitive map. Okay, that type of thing. All right, and if we focus our attention on just a few things, we may be very good at doing just these things only. So we must remember, when you form a family, we must raise our children in such a way that they develop a sense of the above understanding. Okay, it is in knowing that we can be. Remember my email? I always put down it is in giving that we receive. Okay, so don't try to predict the future. invent it. You do. You do it, you invent it. And remember the following, always one. Yesterday is yesterday. If you try to recapture it, you will only lose tomorrow. All right? Okay? Now, I like to point out to you that our next lecture will be on emotional intelligence. And you will see that here, Thorndike already mentioned social intelligence, right? And And Howard Gardner, interpersonal, intrapersonal. So social is same as interpersonal. So you will see that interpersonal and intrapersonal are major ingredients of emotional intelligence. Okay, we must also study emotional intelligence so that we understand a lot better positive psychology. Okay, so now I hope that you will go through this, and now that you have ideas, good ideas, I hope, to understand IQ test, and also you have good ideas the root the root a strong root of discrimination because of IQ test score and labeling based on IQ test score. And look at this here, politics, and also culture will all they all play heavy roles in IQ testing. So I hope that you will pay attention to the full spectrum of intelligence. No single IQ test can test the full spectrum of intelligence. None. Okay, none. Because it is this full spectrum is so wide. Okay, it's not possible for one test to capture the whole spectrum. But I will spend time on full spectrum scale. In an effort to to modify existing psychological scales, most of them negative, to cover the other end of the polar opposite. For example, there are lots of lots of psychological scales measuring depression. What about the polar opposite of depression? That's what is it? Elation, happiness, right? That type of thing. And then I will use a very good example. Peter Chow has published, the full spectrum scale, so that you understand that we need this type of scale, so that the scale score can be interpreted. That means it carries meaning we otherwise cannot see. Good. Okay. Thank you.